Essentially, we are going to be having approximately 500 units to start, and in the starter package we will have an infrared thermometer, a pulse oximeter for persons who are in isolation, not for persons who are in quarantine, as well as a 10-pack of masks in the starter pack, and certainly hand wash and soap. This is really to encourage persons to monitor themselves, because it's all part of the telemedicine package that we will be offering. So we're asking persons to take their oxygenation status as well as their temperature morning and evening, as well as having a telemed consult that happens at any point in time during the day, or even in some cases an in-person consult that will happen at any point in time during the day randomly with a healthcare professional. This is really done, and it's important that you take your morning and your evening readings so that we have more than one reading, which is reading that we will take essentially when we interact with you, so that we can get a better understanding of how you are actually managing. So there is a form that persons can fill out. It keeps a log, so it has your temperature and it has all the symptoms that we generally tend to associate with COVID. From the more severe ones, for instance, the shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, feeling faint, to some of the lesser concerning ones, such as a headache, that fever, which is what we're asking you to take that reading for, as well as things like, for instance, a cough, or if you have any sore throat, or even a case of diarrhea. These are all things that we want to really know if you're having, so that we can track you, we can monitor you, we can know if to escalate care. And the reason we're doing all of this is because persons who can become symptomatic, especially in the unvaccinated group, have an increased potential of deteriorating a lot faster. And so we want to know if you are becoming symptomatic so that we can intervene a lot earlier and get you to more centralized care. Because at this point in time, it's really about making sure that all of our citizens are safe. So here we have two devices. We have our infrared thermometer, which helps you to monitor your temperature, as well as a pulse oximeter, which actually allows you to see the oxygenation status that a person would have. So I'm just going to go through essentially how the two of these function. So it's really easy. The pulse oximeter, or what we call a pulse ox, is essentially a device. It's actually using a bit of light technology to essentially determine indirectly the oxygenation status of a person. And you're going to essentially place your finger, turn it on, place your finger into the pulse oximeter. It's going to start to read what your oxygenation status is, and as you can see here, my oxygenation status is 99. Pulse rate a bit elevated, obviously because I've been going. So this person, which is me, has a high pulse rate, but my oxygenation status is 99. And oxygenation status really should be between 95 to 100. That's considered normal. Okay, so that's how you use the pulse oximeter. You just take it off afterwards and you can return it to the box safely. Okay,
what is the reasonable benefit, the reasonable rate for the other, the heart rate? The heart rate,
right? So when we look at heart rate, we're looking at a normal between 60 and 100. If a person is anxious, if a person, for instance, just came from running or doing lots of activity, because we're here actually packing out all of the units for everyone, then obviously the person's heart rate will be a little elevated. Right.
Thank you.
No problem. And then we also have the infrared thermometer. Again, quite easy to use. So it comes in its own case. You just take it off. You can always just check it to make sure it's working quite nicely. And then we want you to actually place it over the temporal artery. The reason we do this is the correct place to actually take that temperature, because the temporal artery is actually one of the central arteries, or most central arteries. It's the closest representation that we can get to what we call a core temperature, and that's really what we're looking for to determine if a person has a fever. And because we can't get a true core temperature in medicine, old school, we would do a rectal temperature. We can't do that. So we're essentially asking you to just take a proxy of what that central temperature is. So you essentially just put it to the side of the head, press the trigger, it gives a beep, and then it displays the temperature. Okay.
And again, for people who might not be certain or might not know what a reasonable temperature is, tell us a bit about that as well.
So essentially in medicine, we see anything over 37 being a fever. However, for this here, especially what we found is persons who have COVID-19 generally tend to carry what we call a low-grade fever. So they tend to have fevers anywhere above 38.4.